So I've been invited just to talk about TERC and a bit about UKOMAIN and EPSRC. For my sins, I look after the TERC programme at EPSRC. Right, now let's see if I can work this. So I always just start with a little bit of where we sit in the realms of the government, mainly to remind myself because it keeps changing. If I don't put it up, I get mixed up. And so you'll see the important bit is His Majesty's Treasury. I keep saying Her Majesty. It's very hard. They've got all the money, and they filter down the money eventually, kicking and screaming, to UKOMAIN, which is the sort of umbrella organisation that looks after all those little names below, which are all the different research councils. There was 7, but they seem to have bred. There's more of them now. And you'll see there's things like Innovate UK has appeared in there. Research England is now a separate one, and some of the others, if you've been watching Research Council for a while, you'll know what they all are, but the easy thing is the name says exactly what it is, so you know exactly what they fund. Some have more money than others. I will go for those just now. So before I get on to TERC, just a little bit of very recent history, because we've had a new government as of, was it last year? Time flies a bit. But they've had a budget since then, and the budget is still filtering down to the research councils, which then filters down to all the universities, and then we either fund you or we depress you lots and lots, all depend on whether we fund you or not. And you can see there's this whole sort of journey there. It starts at number 1, see, I told you I said her. His Majesty's Treasury announces a spending review. Department of Science, Information and Technology commissions and internal teams, and they start asking all the research councils for spending bids. They usually ask us for a spending bid based on something like a 10% increase and a 10% cut. We have to put out the funding for all of them. So that's our response we send through. The Secretary of State then looks at all that and decides what they can and can't fund. They invariably ask us lots of very awkward questions, usually based on how does it respond to government needs. And then they agree an overall bid, and then they look at all the other bids from all of government. So, you know, from the Foreign Office, from the Home Secretary, everything else you can think of. And then we have to respond to more questions after that's all settled out. They finalise an overall budget, and then there's a budget announcement, which was a few months ago now, saying how much money roughly is for science. And you'd think that's it, but no, it's just the start of the process for UKOMAIN. We've then got to set out what all those different research councils get, and what the big things are going to fund, and what little things are, and how it all works across the board. And that all starts to settle out. So that's settling out now-ish over the next couple of months. And there's lots of awful animations in there that throw me. So here's a little diagram. As long as you're not colourblind, you should be able to read this. It's lots of blocks of colours saying roughly what the budget is for all the different research councils. So EPSRC, where I work, is the green one, which looks very, very small. But it's actually, so it's the second green one there, 640 million. But actually what's happened is a lot of the budget has moved into the big sort of red one there, and into the, one of the ones in there, the black one at the end. A lot of it's in the black one there at the end, well, dark blue. So EPSC's budget has been historically around about 900 million to about nearly £1 billion. It looks like we've taken a 300 million hit, but actually what's happened is things like doctoral training programs, technology mission programs, strategic funds we have, things like MPIF have all been moved into the dark one at the end. So actually the budget is just as big as it was before. In fact, we've got the ability to maybe get a little bit more now because playing into a bigger part. And EPSC is very good at that. When I say EPSC, the academics are very, very good at opening that up, so we expect that to grow a little bit. So like I said, it's the end of Joe's Treasury, it's a start for us. It's to be determined in the next few months. This slide's a little bit old, it said the next few months a couple of months ago. It is still about a month or so away, yeah. And you can see that's the things that are now devolved into the big, across all of the Research Council's budget, technology missions, fund, strategic things, research and development missions, and accelerator programme. So that's really the budget. The thing to remember with the budget is the headline figure is not an awful lot bigger than what we've had for the last few years. So we've not taken a cut, but things keep getting more expensive. So it doesn't help us when we come to funding the academic proposals. And also the competition between universities now for research money is getting more and more ferocious. So your lovely administration departments encourage you to put more grant proposals in. And of course, if we get more grant proposals and the grant proposals are more expensive, it looks from the outside that we're funding less. We're funding the same amount of money. It's just, we're saying no a little bit more each time we get more proposals and they get more expensive. It's settling out a bit. What we'd really like is a 20% budget increase, but you have to help us argue that to our lovely Treasury people. So that was the budget. I hope I've not depressed you too much, just to let you know where it all is and where it's all come from. It's always useful to know. So tomorrow's Engineering Research Challenges, or TERC, because most of us are too lazy to say all of that. So a little history programme for you all, so you know where all this came from. So in October 2021, so it seems a while ago now, we initiated an activity from the community. So we didn't lead it, we asked the community to do it and give us the ideas of where they think engineering should be going and where the big challenges are. And we were very good at sitting hands off. We got Peter Bonfield and Dame Helen Atkinson to lead it for us all, gel people together. It's probably the biggest, single largest engagement exercise we've done with the engineering community as a whole ever. And we wanted them to think about where we're going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. And we were very good here at just, let's see what they come up with, and then we will join in at the end and put in some money where your mouths are. And then there's a lovely photograph of them all announcing this. So this was announced in 2024. There's a whole report was announced that came out. It's online somewhere. There's a link on our websites to it. If anyone's interested, I can email it back to you. And we funded we funded the actual report, and we looked at all this and went, right, okay, we need to follow up on this. There's not a lot of point in getting everybody G'd up with loads of ideas and then doing nothing about it. And so we decided to fund a whole bunch as our first step of Network Plus Awards to respond to the challenge. This is the idea of getting people together around some of the ideas that came out of the report, but also giving them some money to do feasibility research to prove that actually some of these ideas have got some legs in them. And our whole plan is then to, okay, let you do that for 2-3 years. And then hopefully, if you go back to the slide at the beginning, our lovely Rachel Reeves, or whoever it is who exists by then, will be so impressed that we'll go, okay, look at this wonderful stuff we've done. We now want to follow up with some really meaningful, larger grants to develop some of these ideas that have come out from all these networks we've funded. So that's our plan, Treasury willing. And yes, there was a big launch on the 11th of February 2025. That follows on from, we had the whole call for networks last year, and lovely principal investigators, we interviewed them and gave them a very hard time for an hour or so. And then, as you can see, they were successful, and you're all here now. And we're hoping that they go really, really well. So this is part of my job now, is to come along and visit all of these networks, see how they're going, and hopefully I gather ammunition to talk to Treasury and say, let's do more, this is great stuff. Okay, so I mentioned TERC. What were the kind of things that were exciting and interesting about it, what did they come out with? So this really is the conclusions to the report, and it had 3 sort of levels. There was a high level priority, really looking at how you can do engineering differently. Promoting inclusive engineering was one of the ones. How can you re-engineer in the discipline of engineering? How can you do it differently? Encourage agile, impactful skills, diversity, inspired next generation, all these things are in there, and you might see some of that built into how this network is running. And then we had some cross-cutting things that went across all of engineering, and you'll recognise some of these terms that I thought very easily. You know, achieving net zero, it's never out of the press, that's one of the important ones we have. Faster digital design, greater access and use of data. I would have thought this network in particular, if you're not good at that, then you might question why you're here. Increasing human resilience, complex systems, all these kind of things across cross-sectorial. And then at the bottom we have sort of technological challenges where we're drilling down to specific themes. And there's all sorts of things there, even down to space on the left, and transport, new materials, but whole life health and well-being, which we've actually done a call on in terms of engineering healthier environments, robotics, and AI. I suppose I should mention AI, considering I'm here, shouldn't I? Environmentally responsible approaches to engineering. I'll mention the one at the left, well, next to the left there, the nature-based engineering, because we're launching a call on that right now. And then there's all things on global engineering solutions. And they're all kind of things you'd expect the future of engineering to be interested in, and we're going to be looking to responding to as many of them as our budget allows us to. Yeah, and time and staff, of course. Okay, now, I'm afraid this one's got animations in, so you're going to watch me get completely flustered now. So what is a Network Plus we've funded? It's an opportunity for us, and we were very clear on this. We had diverse, dynamic teams from across disciplines. When I wrote this call, I was quite clear that we have to have a lead investigator for the sake of the grant, but what I'm really looking for is a team of people. And the reason I'm looking for a team of people is you can then get people from all stages of career to be involved. You don't want anyone to think, I have to be able to do it all to be part of this, but just be able to think, I can contribute. And that's what we're looking for in the teams. So the people who have got the grants have shown that really quite well. And we're looking for them then to think of new ways of working, so that's what we will be pushing for as we move forward. All our networks, because there's such broad areas and such broad teams and networks of people, I really don't mind if it's not all engineering. You know, you will be reaching out to other areas. The term we came up with is engineering at their heart. So I can argue this is engineering funding. Look at what it's doing in the middle, but it also reaches out and joins to others. And then we're looking for imaginative use of the plus element, which is we've funded them all to have a network and to get together and talk to each other, but we've given them some funds to do other things, and we'd like those other things to be imaginative, which means I didn't say exactly what I want. I wanted you to impress me. So hopefully that should happen, and the interviews certainly got that across to us. And obviously everything needs to approach and report back to the TERC report. And then here we go with, that's all of the technological themes I mentioned earlier, and that's all the different ways they can link together. And you can see if you have some really good networks, you should be able to take all of them and then take all of our priorities from the top level, looking at increasing human resilience, digital design, and we should be able to, isn't that clever, layer all of that to the top and hopefully join them all together so we can get all our networks working together, and we can say this is how it links into all the other different bits of TERC and how it moves upwards to the other things we want engineering to do. And I'm having to press an awful lot of buttons here and I don't know what they're doing, but there we go. And you can see, if we have our networks, so we've got, I think it's 9 networks at the moment, all funded at the moment. How do they join together and look at integration of systems, nature-based solutions, and how do you take some of those links and go, okay, they're feeding into greater access of use of data, understanding complex systems, and I can look at that and go, okay, for the next level of TERC, we need to encourage more of that, or we need to reward that for doing that so well. And that's where I'll be looking as we move forward. And that's really one of the things we look at, is how do we link them all together. And I'm having to press lots of buttons to make it go away. There's a second example there, see. And you can see we should be able to do that and show where the multimodal network fits into all this as well. So to wrap up on TERC, what else did we fund? It's always useful for you to know what else is out there, who you can be talking to. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them at the moment. So Noise Network Plus, they launched a few months ago. I went to that one. So that's Engineering a Quieter Future. There's all sorts of fascinating ideas coming out of there about how noise impacts just how you think and how you do things, not just the research to make things quieter. Engineering Healthcare Technologies, Digital Design Network Plus, Better Water for All. So that was looking at how do we re-engineer water engineering to make it resilient, to give high quality water. That's got all sorts of clever ideas there moving in. Failure modes of engineering. So that was more of a general one. It's not got a specific science area, but it looks at how do things in engineering fail. How do we look at future inclusivity? How do we make things sustainable? How do we make engineering work better for the environment? So that's quite an interesting, different one. And then last but not least, you lot, AI network. And AI has been in the news an awful lot recently. I was just reminded earlier that big announcement of the Americans. Was it yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, and then to finish off on the TERC, this is just a lovely quote we had from Dame Helen Atkinson. What we would like you all to think about is we're not just doing the same old engineering research here. We're looking for you to break the mould a little bit, to be more integrated, more innovative, more inclusive, and really make a difference. And the bit I like here is, and this is something that engineering in many senses can be guilty of, is our solutions for ones that improves the world and not degrade it. How can we do this without causing damage in other areas just to get our engineering done? And I think that's a really interesting challenge to put into these things. So that's TERC. I wanted to mention there's a whole bunch of other networks I funded a few months ago on engineering healthier environments, and these might be areas that you want to link into and be aware of as well. So this is looking at how do you bring engineering into urban environments and help people's health and well-being. And you can see from the titles, really, that's exactly what they're doing. Urban health and a place-based approach, innovative solutions for the home environment, healthy indoor environments. And there's all sorts of things in there that would be really useful if you're looking to do anything for the health of buildings. There's a lot of it on buildings. There was a little bit on green spaces as well. What we didn't look at was agriculture and countryside, just because we had to stop somewhere. We also had a big debate on whether we actually look at engineering healthier virtual environments. We came down on not doing that, but we have a place marker now. This is something we need to think about more thoughtfully as well, just because of the way engineering technology is moving at such a pace. And then, oops, right. I did have an extra slide, but it's not on this one. That's okay. I can talk, so it's fine.
You have which one? This one? Is the last one, or do you have more?
No, there was one more. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I was going to mention was we have an extra call that's live at the moment called Nature-Based Engineering. I believe, and I might be a day or two wrong, that the closing date is the 23rd of October, and that's for more network grants. It's directly linked into TERC, and it's how do we look at nature-based inspiration into engineering. So it's not taking an actual product itself and using engineering, but how do we do biomimicry? How do we engineer an actual product to use for an engineering design? And so that's out at the moment. It's worth looking at on the EPSRC website. They're about £500,000 each, and we have £6 million to spend on that one. At the moment, we're looking for we've looked for expressions of interest. We are now open for the calls to be written. I am happily spying on what people are writing into the computer system, so I know roughly what's coming in. But you're more than welcome to have a look and have a go at that. And that's open right now. And I believe that is all I have to say. If there's any questions, we'll be fine.
Thank you very much to Simon for introducing the EPSRC and tomorrow's engineering research challenges. And because of the limited time, we can have a quick question.
I can hear from there, but
So most of the network I saw is from UK. So what do you think about is there opportunity for a multinational network, global network, or is what's the situation currently in yeah?
I'm absolutely fine with other nations being involved in them. The only issue I have is, of course, British taxpayers' money, so that we have rules and regulation about what we can and can't fund. But if the other nations want to fund their part onto it, then we'll absolutely encourage them to link together. And I have funded networks for specifically we look to fund with Japan or China or the United States. I mean, I've got a meeting this afternoon to look at how we work with the United States on building underground environments. So yeah, it's something we can do. Just this call was UK based, in that the principal investigator has to be the UK based academic, but we can certainly have other nations involved. It's just that they would need to bring their own pennies to the table.
Thank you very much. If you have more questions to discuss with Simon, you are welcome to extend the discussions in the coffee break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next,